I still remember the exact moment I realized I had just made the worst mistake of my life. I was standing in a luxury restaurant I couldn't afford, watching my billionaire best friend walk in through the front door. While his sister, the girl I had just kissed 2 nights before, was standing right beside me, frozen. And the worst part? He had no idea. Not yet. But in less than 5 minutes, everything I thought I knew about friendship, loyalty, and love was about to fall apart. So yeah, if you've ever thought one small decision can't ruin everything, this story might change your mind. Before I get into this story, just do me a quick favor. If you enjoy real, raw confessions like this, hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and it tells me you want more stories like this. Alright, let's get into it. My name's Ethan Cole. I'm 26 years old, and I live in Seattle, well, technically just outside it, in a small 1-bedroom apartment that always smells faintly like coffee and laundry detergent. I work as a freelance graphic designer. It sounds cooler than it is. Most days, it's just me, my laptop, and a quiet room where the loudest sound is my own thoughts bouncing off the walls. I didn't always imagine my life turning out like this. Back in high school, I thought I'd be something bigger. Or at least, somewhere else. But life has a way of quietly adjusting your expectations. And sometimes, it circles back in ways you don't expect. I had one constant growing up, my best friend, Ryan Parker. Ryan and I met when we were 12, sitting next to each other in math class. He was the loud one. Confident, always cracking jokes, always the center of attention. I was quieter, more observant. The kind of guy who listened more than he spoke. Somehow, we balanced each other out. We spent almost every day together, school, weekends, late-night gaming sessions. He was the kind of friend who made everything feel bigger, more alive. And back then, there was no such thing as different paths. We thought we'd always be side by side. But life doesn't really work like that. Ryan changed during our senior year. It wasn't sudden, it was gradual, like watching someone slowly step into a different version of themselves. He got into business competitions. Started talking about startups. Investments. Big ideas. While I was trying to figure out which college I could even afford, he was already planning how he'd build something of his own. And he did. Faster than anyone expected. By the time we were 24, Ryan Parker wasn't just doing well. He was a name. Tech articles. Interviews. A company that exploded almost overnight. Investors throwing money at him like it meant nothing. A billionaire before 26. Yeah, that kind of story. We didn't fight or anything. We just drifted. Calls turned into texts. Texts turned into nothing. Different worlds. Different lives. The last time I saw him before everything changed was almost 3 years ago. At a coffee shop. He showed up in a tailored jacket, talking about meetings and flights and opportunities. I showed up in a hoodie, talking about deadlines and clients who paid late. We laughed. But something felt off. Like we were already strangers pretending not to be. And then one random Thursday night, everything came back. I wasn't supposed to be there. That's the funny part. There's this upscale restaurant downtown, one of those places with dim lighting, soft piano music, and menus that don't show prices unless you ask. Definitely not my kind of place. But a client insisted on meeting there to discuss branding ideas. Translation, he wanted to feel important while I nodded and took notes. So I went. Sat at a table near the corner, trying not to feel out of place. I remember looking around, noticing the polished wood, the quiet conversations, the kind of atmosphere that makes you lower your voice without thinking. And then, I saw her. At first, I didn't recognize her. She was carrying a tray, moving carefully between tables, her posture straight, her expression calm but distant. But something about her face, familiar. I kept watching, trying to place it. And then it hit me. Hard. Lena? She turned. And for a second, time didn't just slow down. It stopped. Lena Parker. Ryan's younger sister. Back in high school, she was untouchable in a way. Not because she tried to be. She was just different. Quiet like me, but softer. Warmer. The kind of person who noticed small things, like when you were having a bad day, even if you didn't say anything. She used to sit with us sometimes. Not talking much. Just being there. I always liked that. More than I ever admitted. But this version of Lena? It was different. Older, obviously. But more than that, there was something in her eyes. Something heavier. Ethan, she said softly, almost like she wasn't sure. I stood up without thinking. Yeah, it's me. We just looked at each other for a moment. No script. No idea what to say. You work here? I asked, immediately realizing how stupid that sounded. She gave a small smile. Yeah. For now. For now. I repeated. She hesitated. Then shrugged lightly. It's temporary. There was a pause. The kind that feels like it's hiding 100 unspoken things. I didn't know you were back in Seattle, she said. I never really left. Another small smile. But it didn't quite reach her eyes. Before I could say anything else, someone called her name from across the room. She glanced back. I should. Yeah, of course. She nodded, but before she turned away, she said, I get off at 10. Then she walked off. I sat back down slowly. My client was talking about something, logos, colors, brand identity, but I wasn't listening. Not really. My mind was somewhere else. Stuck on one question. What was Lena doing here? Ryan Parker's sister. Working as a waitress. It didn't make sense. Not even a little. I barely made it through the meeting. By the time 10 rolled around, I was already outside, leaning against the brick wall near the entrance. Trying to calm down. Trying to understand why my chest felt tight. When she finally came out, she looked different again. Apron gone. Hair slightly messy. Shoulders more relaxed, but somehow more vulnerable. You waited, she said. Yeah. I pushed myself off the wall. Is that okay? She nodded. Yeah, it is. We started walking. No destination. Just moving. The city felt quieter at night. Softer. More honest. So, I said after a while, you want to tell me what's going on? She let out a small breath. I figured you'd ask that. There was a long pause before she spoke again. I don't talk to Ryan anymore. That wasn't what I expected. What do you mean? I asked. She kept her eyes forward. I mean, we haven't spoken in over a year. I frowned. But why? She stopped walking. Turned to me. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. That weight in her eyes. Because not everything about his life is as perfect as it looks. We stood there in silence. The city humming quietly around us. I didn't leave because I had to, she said. I left because I couldn't stay. I didn't press. Didn't ask for details. Something told me she'd say more when she was ready. So instead, we just walked. And talked. About small things at first. Old memories. High school. Stupid jokes Ryan used to make. And slowly, the distance between us started to fade. Like no time had passed at all. Over the next few weeks, that became our thing. Late nights. Walks. Conversations that stretched longer than we planned. Sometimes we'd grab cheap coffee from a late-night cafe. Sometimes we'd just sit on a bench somewhere, watching the city breathe. And every time I looked at her, I noticed something new. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way her voice softened when she talked about things that mattered. The way she avoided certain topics, like they carried weight she wasn't ready to share. And me? I noticed something else too. I was starting to care. More than I should. And I knew it. Because this wasn't simple. She wasn't just someone I met. She was Ryan's sister. My best friend's sister. Or former best friend. And that line? It wasn't just blurry. It was dangerous. But feelings don't really care about lines. The night everything shifted? It was raining. Soft at first. Then heavier. We were standing under the awning outside the restaurant, waiting for it to slow down. You ever think about leaving? She asked suddenly. Leaving Seattle? She nodded. Yeah. I thought about it. Sometimes. Why don't you? I shrugged. I guess. I don't know where I'd go. She looked at me. Really looked. I used to think I had everything figured out, she said quietly. Like life was just a straight path. A small, almost bitter smile. Turns out, it's not. The rain got heavier. Closer somehow. I trusted Ryan, she continued. With everything. She paused. Maybe that was my mistake. I stepped a little closer. Not touching her. Just closer. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, I said. She looked at me. And for a moment, everything else faded. I know, she said softly. There was something in that moment. Something fragile. Unspoken. And then, she reached for my hand. It wasn't dramatic. Wasn't rushed. Just natural. Like it had been building for a long time. I should have pulled away. I know that. But I didn't. And neither did she. We stood there like that, listening to the rain. Feeling something neither of us wanted to name. Until she looked up at me. And whispered. Ethan. That was it. That was the moment. Because the next thing I knew, we weren't just standing there anymore. We were crossing a line. The kiss wasn't rushed. Wasn't intense. It was quiet. Careful. Like we both knew exactly what it meant. And exactly what it could ruin. When we pulled apart, we didn't say anything. We didn't need to. Because the reality of it was already there. This wasn't just something small. This changed everything. The close call came 2 nights later. We were at her apartment. A small place. Simple. Warm in a way that felt real. We were sitting close. Talking. Laughing. Trying to pretend things were still normal. And then, her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Froze. "Who is it?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just turned the phone toward me. "Ryan." My chest tightened. "He doesn't call me," she whispered. "Not anymore." The phone kept ringing. And in that moment, everything came crashing back. Who she was. Who he was. What this could become. "Answer it," I said. She hesitated. Then did. "Hello?" I couldn't hear him. But I didn't need to. I could see it in her face. Surprise. Then tension. Then something else. Something unresolved. I stood up slowly. Stepped back. This wasn't my place. Not really. After a minute, she hung up. "He's in Seattle," she said quietly. Of course he was. And he wants to see me. The silence that followed? It said everything. Because now? This wasn't just between me and her anymore. It never really was. We didn't talk about it much after that. Not directly. But something changed. Subtle, but real. The ease we had? It started to fade. Not because we didn't feel it anymore. But because we felt too much. A few days later, she told me she was leaving. "Just for a while," she said. "I need to figure things out." I nodded. Even though I didn't want to. "Are you going to see him?" I asked. She looked down. Yeah. That stung more than I expected. But I understood. Or at least, I tried to. The night before she left, we walked again. Same streets. Same quiet city. But everything felt different. "He was your best friend," she said suddenly. I let out a small breath. Yeah. And now? I thought about it. Longer than I expected. "I don't know," I admitted. She nodded. Like she understood more than I said. When we stopped walking, she turned to me. "I don't regret it," she said softly. I swallowed. Me neither. That was the truth. Even if it hurt. We didn't kiss that night. We just stood there. Close. But not crossing that line again. Because some lines, once crossed, change everything. She left the next morning. No dramatic goodbye. No promises. Just a quiet hug. And a soft, "Take care of yourself, Ethan." And then she was gone. It's been 8 months. I still think about her sometimes. More than I probably should. Ryan? I saw him once. From a distance. At an event I somehow got invited to. We didn't talk. Didn't even acknowledge each other. And maybe that's for the best. Because some stories don't need closure. They just exist. A moment in time. A feeling you carry. Something that changes you? Without staying. And Lena? I heard she moved to Chicago. Started something new. I hope she found what she was looking for. I really do. Because what we had? It wasn't meant to last. But it was real. And sometimes, that's enough.